Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies if in your time zone it's not afternoon. It is early afternoon here in Dallas, Texas. A rainy but also sunny. That's Texas weather for you. It can be sunny while it's raining. Who knew? So it's a sunny and rainy. See, I made up a new word. Runny stands for sunny and rainy day over here in Dallas, Texas. And yes, I am actually in normal clothes today. I often shoot my videos for Human Girl on my breaks from my work at my 9-hour stint as a barista at the Renaissance Hotel here in Dallas. And so I shoot these videos as an overflow of just what's in my heart, as a compliment to the poetry that I write on my blog. So this one is just coming out of a place. I have not posted a video in a while, but I have written some poetry. I've written 2 posts for Human Girl. One is about faith and the nature of faith and how just the idea that it's not always a glamorous thing. This idea that often faith means pressing forward when you don't want to. It means acknowledging the mess and still being able to press forward, like loving yourself in the moment while still being able to always constantly reach for that best version of who you are, and letting God transform you, which often means you have to be very, very human, hence the nature of my title, Human Girl. The second post I wrote for the blog was about the idea that we can often be a secret to ourselves. I entitled the post Secrets for a reason. The idea that there's been a lot of stuff happening in my life, mostly in the everyday, in the nitty-gritty, in the daily grind, whether it be work or driving or struggling to pay my rent on time as I support myself and go through a career change. Whatever the case may be, I have found that it's often telling in those moments when you have those everyday moments come up. It's often telling the way you react to the everyday things, the way you might be triggered, the way you might respond to something is very indicative of what is going on under the surface. And that we can often be a secret to ourselves because we react out of a lot of often hidden emotions, things from our past, things that we have forgotten about or tried to push aside or tried to repress, things that we may not always be aware of. And how important it is to examine those foundations and be willing to go deep into the recesses of places that might be hurtful, but that are so key in being able to allow us to figure out why we react the way that we do and where our motivation and what our foundation is. I could have entitled the post Foundation simply because I think that a lot of times in my life I have just strictly paid attention to the way I behave, and when I didn't like the way I behaved, I would try to fix the behavior, and which is often like trying to put a band-aid on a wound that needs surgery, because the problem was coming out of my heart. It was coming out of my emotions. It was coming out of places that were not healed or that were not reconciled, or that I was carrying around from my past, and that were responding to current present situations, but from a place that was still stuck in the past because I had been hurt, or I had been disappointed, or I had been offended and I hadn't dealt with it. And so this idea that there are foundations to our behavior, and instead of just putting a band-aid on something, which would be like just addressing the surface behavior, and believe me, the way we behave is important, but instead of just addressing the behavior and trying to change it, it's more of an internal inside-out process. We are willing to work through the deeper roots stuff in order to change your behavior. And so that it takes more work to do it like that. I mean, I would love to just snap my fingers and be a Mary Poppins and just have me behave the way I need to. But it's more of an investment in who you are and who you're becoming to do that internal work. And after I wrote the post Secrets, which you can find on Human Girl, I'm going to include a link to it in this video. But part of what came out of my heart when I wrote Secrets was this idea that one of my big foundations and one of the elements of who I am that often comes out in ways behaviorally is this idea of shame. And someone gave me a book recently, a friend gave me a book that is absolutely incredible. It's called Healing the Shame That Binds You. And it's very down to earth, but also extremely psychologically rich and deep. It's about the idea that there are 2 different kinds of shame. There's a shame that is healthy and a shame that is toxic. And the shame that is healthy reminds us, just briefly, I'm going to butcher the way the book tells it because it's so much better than the way I could, but this idea that there's a healthy sense of shame when, for instance, if you do something that is against your morals or against your conscience or that hurts someone else. There's that sense of, oh, that wasn't true to what I want to be. There's also a sense of shame where you realize your limitations. You realize, hey, I'm human and I don't have the ability to do everything. That's what the author describes as being healthy shame. Toxic shame is the deep sense that something is wrong with you, that you are inherently wrong. And so when you make mistakes, it's not just, oh, I made a mistake, I can fix it or I can apologize. No, it reminds you, it's this resounding reminder every time you slip up that, hey, I am worthless as a human being. Because shame, when you have the toxic shame deep inside of you, it's this idea that I inherently am not worth anything, that my value lies in what I do because I have no internal worth. And you live from the inside out because you're like, I can't tolerate myself because I feel like I don't have any worth, I don't have any value, that there's something inherently wrong with me, that I don't even deserve to be here, to be alive. And so out of that, it's always performance, perfectionism. You're living on the outside instead of the inside out because you can't even tolerate a relationship with yourself. And when I read that, it answered so many questions about the way I live and the secrets about me, the secrets I keep from myself, that even I, as a person, am a secret to myself in a way, because I have, from many different experiences, and it's not necessary to go into why this is the case, but I have a structure of shame built into the core of my being that makes it really, really difficult to look someone in the eyes sometimes, to be able to share what is authentic about me, because I feel like it is inherently not valuable, inherently dirty, or inherently shameful, so to speak. And so that is a big part of my way of dealing with life. And so I may have a hard time admitting something, because to me, I can't just say, oh, I screwed up here. When I say I screwed up doing something, to me, when I say that, it means I am a screw up, because it's hard for me to separate my actions from my internal worth. So when I say, hey, I screwed up and I rear-ended someone, it's like saying, hey, I am a screw up and I'm like, I'm worthless in this situation, as in all situations, because I'm defined by what I do. And so as I have grown and progressed and healed as a burgeoning adult, I have started to realize how that holds me back and how toxic that is. That toxic shame is so toxic in every area of my life. It affects relationships. It makes me secretive. It makes me hide things. It makes me not want to be open. It makes me have to perform for people and not allow them to see my real self. In work, it makes me not able to fully engage with what I'm doing because I'm so concentrated on my performance. In school, it was like that too. I defined myself by my grades, and so it was extremely difficult to enjoy or learn in school, in college, because I was so focused on what my self-worth went up and down with my grades. I made mostly all A's, but I felt good about myself only because of that. And that's a false sense of security, and it's a false sense of self-worth. I didn't have an internal sense of this is who I am, and so it was hard for me to separate who I am from what I did. And there's a difference between who you are and what you do. You can do things that aren't always true to yourself. You can do things that aren't always good, right, moral, and you still be able to feel that sense of worth in terms of who you are. And so I'm sharing this kind of just almost as a verbal processing with you guys, trying to create a dialogue on shame and how I think that a lot of people live in that without realizing there's a difference between the two kinds of shame, and without realizing that, hey, there are foundations and there are roots to our behavior that go way beyond, it goes way beyond just the behavioral things that we do on the outside. We are a complex kind of system of machinery. We have a lot of emotional complexities inside. We're fragile people. We're also extremely resilient, but we have an emotional complexity that affects how we portray ourselves to the world and how authentic we're able to do that, and how we react to something like mistakes or screw-ups. And so there isn't like an ending line to this message, except to say that I would encourage anyone watching to just take the time to sit down and not to become self-focused or self-obsessed or a navel starer, but simply to, when your behavior surprises you, or when your behavior is disingenuous with who you are, who you want to be, don't just put a band-aid on the behavior, but consider, okay, what is motivating me, and is this a trigger? Am I reacting out of, in the moment, or is this something way back that's been a buildup of other things? And just looking at that, and also considering, what role does shame play in my life? Because I can assure you that as I'm trying to heal from it, I'm recognizing that, wow, it has held me back from a lot, and I don't want it to do that anymore. And so even part of me posting this video is part of me actively trying to work on not living according to the toxic shame, but accepting who I am in vulnerability and sharing that with, in this case, the world of YouTube. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this, my subscribers, my followers, and people I have not met yet. And I would enjoy hearing any comments and any traffic on my blog if you would like to click the link down below and get it checked out. But in either case, I love y'all and have a great day.